Gentlemen, this country is about to explode. We are going to be spending a lot of time, of course, talking about Starmer's new plan to introduce mandatory digital IDs. And we've also got a load of other stuff to discuss today in the podcast. But before we go anywhere, we want you to hit the like button and most importantly, hit the subscribe button. It's really, really important. Only 20% of you that watch this podcast on a regular basis are actually subscribed. So make sure you do subscribe. We just hit 10,000 subscribers. So a big thank you and a shout out to all of you that have already subscribed. But guys, make sure you subscribe. The more subscribers we get, the better these episodes get. How are you today, Dom?
Yeah, it's a beautiful day here in sunny Cheshire. So yeah, obviously a lot of things have unraveled over the past couple of days. Big news on digital ID and obviously some other stuff we're going to roll into as well. But how are you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, man. I'm pretty good. Yeah, I'm super happy that we hit 10,000 subscribers. That's like a massive achievement here on YouTube, and looks like everyone seems to be enjoying the podcast, which is also great to see as well.
Yeah, the support has been absolutely wild. You know, 2 months ago this was just an idea, and now it is a full-fledged show. You know, we've got a lot of momentum going forward, sort of towards Christmas. We've got lots of big plans that we're ready to unravel as soon as we sort of get back into the zone. So yeah, I'm very excited.
I'm excited also. Let's not waste any more time, mate. Let's talk about the digital IDs. First, early thoughts with regard to digital IDs, Dom. What are you thinking with regard to it?
Yeah, so really this looks like a bipartisan issue. You know, no one on the right nor the sort of far left is liking this idea. And we first really saw this push through Labour, Labour Together, as an idea in order to stop the boats. Now, in one of our previous episodes, I akin this to, not locking the door to stop the illegal migrants coming in, but instead putting CCTV in the house. So instead of obviously stopping illegal migrants from coming into the country in the first place, you can come in, but you can't work. And it's going to act as an apparent deterrent to stop the illegal shadow economies and the people working in them for people like sort of companies like Deliveroo and Just Eat. But really, I don't see why every single citizen in this country should have to suffer to have their ID digitally uploaded on a centralised database just because Starmer can't control his borders.
No, well, it's like everything with Labour do all the time. They do absolutely everything other than dealing with the actual problem. We've seen Donald Trump in the space of a month or 2 months completely bring down illegal immigration. Trump has been visiting the UK over the last 3 times. They've met each other over the last month or so. So if he wants to try and find something that's effective to stop illegal immigration, simply ask Donald Trump. He has literally came out multiple times whilst being in the UK and said that you need to stop it by doing this, doing this, doing this. He's a guy that has a country far bigger than ours and has stopped it within in the space of literally 2 months. More to the point, the UK is an island. We have a moat around it. It is piss easy. He is doing absolutely everything other than dealing with illegal immigration. And simply, I was getting frustrated with myself, Dom, yesterday because I just kept on nitpicking what this was about and saying, well, it's not for illegal immigration. And you've got to remember, this isn't for illegal immigration. It's simply a guise, right? He's taking a problem that people are outraged about and going, oh, this is a good way to be able to put the digital ID into place, is try and take a problem that people are outraged about and say, this is going to stop it. So I just stopped getting myself frustrated. I just simply seen it as it is. It is just a guise to try and bring it and implement it. They want to try and do it. And they've always wanted to try and do it. It's been in the back burner from Labour for many years. Tony Blair was the first one that proposed it. And to be fair, he's been piping up recently a lot, talking about digital IDs. And he's been pushing this agenda for a very long time. And we already know that Keir Starmer is just a face for the Labour government. You know, he has strings that people pull and do control him on a day-to-day basis. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Blair, of course, is involved with this situation. But all it is, Dom, is a guise.
Of course, yeah, and you really have to extrapolate where these things go. We're looking at a sort of CCP-style surveillance state on what is supposedly a free country. We created the Magna Carta in the 1200s. We are supposed to be a free sovereign nation. And this just shows a lack of trust really to the sort of citizens of this country. Now, from their own website, it says there will be no requirement for individuals to carry their ID or to be asked to produce it, but digital ID will be mandatory as a means of proving your right to work. So really, if you want to get a new job, you will have to get ID. Well, if you have a job, you don't need to get it. But this is really what we're talking about. We're talking about complete government control, a 1984 style surveillance state here. What this will extrapolate out to is the being able to control your banks, being able to control what you buy, what you spend your money on, withdrawing cash, rights to work. And if you go against the government, if you're outspoken, such as a sort of public figure like Tommy Robinson, for example, they will use this in order to stifle political dissent. And it's really just the first step in what is a totalitarian government.
Yeah, well, it starts as simply just this, so then people try and abide and try and get involved. But then straight away, they're going to change it into something super horrific, like the sort of Chinese system at what they got, the social credit system at what they've got. But what digital ID can actually do, I've got some points for you as to what it can. The cons against it, I mean, there's many cons, but data breaches, identity theft, fraud, government overreach as the main one, political restriction, privacy violation, freedom loss, resource diversion, trust erosion, social inequality, corporate power, surveillance state, human rights abuse, social credit system, totalitarian state, and a cashless society. So this hub, or what we're going to see, will literally be a nightmare. So it comes in just as this, just to get everyone going. We kind of seen it, the trial with the COVID vaccine passports back in 2021. We've seen how it could be implemented. And then all of a sudden, you go to, you're completely monitored. And Nigel Farage made a good point. You try and book a ticket to go to Marbella, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, no, you've already used your carbon allowance this year. You're not allowed to go to save the environment. You can only go on 2 holidays a year because you're using up too much carbon as an individual, and we can completely track what you are doing and what you're saying. But also the bank system, jobs, and of course, as we've seen, and we're going to get to with the police, monitoring people for what they say on social media, say something bad about the government, and so all of a sudden you're blacklisted, your bank accounts are blacklisted, and all of a sudden you're completely broken as a person.
Exactly, and this is pushed through with the guise of illegal immigration and illegal workers. Yet, the actual, how this will sort of play out is nothing to do with illegal immigration. And it's so interesting. Exactly, and it's so interesting you say about the whole carbon tax. I can 100% predict that right now. It's so interesting to see all these people in the sort of the UN conference and the G2 summits flying their private jets and belittle us. They belittle us about our carbon use and what we should do to help the planet. And yet they're the ones who are producing the most CO2 by far. It's do as I say, not as I do. And really what we're looking at is an elite class of people wanting to control, movement and wanting to control what people spend their money on. And, you're absolutely right in saying that this is akin to the vaccine passport. I mean, Tony Blair has said on record that, to get your sovereignty back and to get your freedoms back, you must be vaccinated. Well, it's going to be the exact same thing with the digital ID. The ID will be sort of waived as a carrot and stick method, and freedoms will be reduced. Freedoms will be limited for the citizens of this country if they don't get their ID. And we need to push back on every single front. They cannot make all of us get this ID, and we need to really push back and make sure that we do not conform to this sort of this totalitarian state, this tyrannical state, and their government overreach. It puts no sort of trust in the people of this country. They want absolute complete government overreach.
And pushing back is what they are doing. The petition, of course, to stop and not introduce digital ID cards has got to 860,000 signatures at the time of recording. Now, I did a live stream late last night, actually, and it was sitting at the time 177,000. So just in the space of overnight and then into the morning now, we've seen a huge increase of nearly around 600,000 signatures, and this is going to surpass 1 million very, very shortly. A lot of people are opposed to it. And I'm seeing something you kind of touched upon at the start. I'm seeing unanimously across the board, the Lib Dems, the Conservatives, Reform, and even Jeremy Corbyn's Your Party, all refuting it and not wanting it to be implemented. And of course, Labour MPs themselves not wanting this to be a thing. And in fact, we're going to get to a Labour MP shortly. Lisa Nandy hasn't got a fucking clue what she's talking about with regard to it. So that's the main point of it. They don't understand what they're even doing themselves. This is just Keir Starmer just pushing it through. His approval rating's so low right now. We're already seeing defections within his party. We're already seeing his own Labour MPs turn on him. And we're also seeing a mayor, Andy Burnham, trying to vie for his position. It's all falling apart, and now he's trying to nuke the place by bringing in a digital ID. And the interesting part I've seen about it, we're going to get to his little speech in a minute to see as to why his reasons are for why bringing this in, but they're going to be bringing it in by the end of this parliament, as they think they're going to be trying to come back into parliament in 2029. So what, is it going to be introduced by 2029 apparently? They're not going to be in power after 2029, so it's going to be completely rubbished anyway.
Exactly. And I guarantee the next party that wins the election will just repeal it initially anyway. But you're right, the issue is bipartisan. You've got Adnan Hussain, who's the MP for Blackburn. He's an independent member of parliament. And he tweeted, "Starmer's government seems to have achieved the impossible, united a fragmented country against plans to roll out digital ID. Everyone's on page against the absurd idea." And then Rupert Lowe, who's been one of the biggest outspoken critics of Mr. Hussain, said, "I hope you'll consider signing my letter." And his letter says, "We are writing to register our profound and passionate opposition to your reported plans for a compulsory UK digital-wide ID system. Such a policy would represent an unprecedented level of state control over British citizens. This is a fundamental change to the relationship between the individual and the state. It's dangerous, intrusive, and deeply un-British. It risks building the foundations of a surveillance state, one that will inevitably expand in scope over time. This is the point. Give them an inch, they'll take a mile." He says, "We urge you to abandon these plans immediately. At the very least, you must commit to bringing any proposal before Parliament for full scrutiny and a free vote, and to fully consult the public before attempting to impose such drastic measures on a reluctant country. The British people do not want this, and the British people do not need this. Compulsory digital ID would mark a dangerous and permanent shift in the balance of power between government and the governed. We will oppose you at every stage." Now, Hassan has signed the letter, which really shows a massive bipartisan support or sort of opposal of this scheme.
The only thing that Starmer's got from this is literally uniting every single party against his stupid ideas. I don't see where he's seeing this. He's trying to rebuild himself. I also see him in that sort of speech as well, talking about trying to stop the populist right, that being of reform, of course, in his head. So talking about, he's trying to rebuild his reputation. We've seen his new aide who joined a couple of months ago, resign literally yesterday. And he's now trying to nuke himself even further on the left, the right, and the centre by bringing this in. I don't get what his strategic plan is here.
No, it's not very forward-thinking. And you're right, to show it's such a bipartisan issue doesn't show that, this is a Labour initiative. It must be some sort of globalist agenda that he's trying to push. And this is what we see. We see this sort of the rights of the citizens be taken away. We saw it massively in COVID, and that was, again, as you said, just a test for what will come. And this is now coming. This is coming to the scene now, and it's only going to get worse. You give them an inch, they'll take a mile. This is only a guise in order to elicit full control over British citizens and the population. And the funny thing is about the whole carbon sort of conversation is that Europe has decreased its carbon emissions massively, but China and India have increased theirs by about 5x, which just makes our, it makes our carbon footprint reduction completely futile. So what is the point? We're going to use this sort of green energy push in order to bankrupt ourselves and all of European and Western economies. It makes absolutely no sense. We should be playing the same game that China and India are using, and really be at least a level with them in terms of competition.
Facts. Shall we see what Starmer said in his an announcement that he made at this sort of Global Progress Action conference? As stated, this is the reasons for it. As stated, he talked about illegal immigration being one of them, but that wasn't the only reasons. Of course, Putin got a mention, by the way. Let's have a watch of this.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that. Because decent, pragmatic, fair-minded people, they want us to tackle the issues that they see around them. And of course, the truth is, we won't solve our problems if we don't also take on the root causes, looking upstream to tackle poverty, conflict, climate change, issues that aren't just intolerable for those of us who care about inequality and injustice wherever it's found in the world, but which have clear consequences for our own citizens. Take Russia's aggression in Ukraine. We all have a responsibility for the future of our continent, to stand tall where oppression and violence rears its head. But it is also about energy security, because Putin and other tyrants have used their control over energy supplies as a threat. They've pushed up energy bills, threatened to keep doing so unless they get their way. And that's why we're investing in our own energy, sovereign control over our own future, whether that's nuclear, wind, solar power. Now, this will create good jobs, but it will also take the boot of tyrants like Putin off our throat. So our mission to become a clean energy superpower is about future-proofing energy supply, bringing energy bills down and protecting the planet that we all live on, doing right by our values and by our countries and our citizens. Because in this era, we must be the nation builders. We must be the patriots in our countries. We must show working people that we, and only we, can deliver the pride and belonging they seek. Their communities strong, cohesive, changed for the better, taking control of our future, tackling the big challenges, whether that's climate change or illegal migration, not shying away from them. That is how we win. That is how we rebuild. That's how renewal defeats grievance.
So there you go. Thoughts on that for Keir Starmer?
Yeah, I mean, he's saying exactly what we thought, you know. He mentioned climate change twice there, tackling problems upstream. And in relation to digital ID, well, he said categorically that this is to stop illegal workers. Yet why did he mention climate change twice there? That obviously shows the intention of the digital ID. It is not just to stop illegal workers. It is to stop climate change. And you're right, the digital ID will be linked to a carbon footprint, and you will get a carbon allowance per year. That is 100% true. 100%. He's telling us, Dan. He's telling us right now what his plans are. It's ridiculous. And like, he thinks that we're stupid. He thinks that, you know, he says about the good, honourable people who want to tackle the problems upstream. Well, rather than stop illegal workers in the UK, just stop illegals. Like, stop the boats. It's so simple. And yet this guy is dancing around the issue and using it as a guise to bring in all these sort of awful controls over the citizens. It just completely bewilders me how he thinks we're this stupid.
Yeah, and I also think with digital ID is one of those things that I actually know a lot of people, and it's not just old people, but it's people that I don't know, even people our age now kind of just getting rid of their phone. They don't want their phone. They see how much of a problem it is in their life. And I've seen a lot of people who literally just dump their iPhone, their smartphone. So now they're going to penalise people because they don't want to have a fucking smartphone to sort of improve their lives as such as well. So it's like, oh, you need to have a phone. So I need to buy now a smartphone to get a digital ID put on there. Otherwise I can't work a job.
Yeah, and I was speaking to a few friends and they're like, if this comes in, I'm just going to get a Nokia. I'm going to have a smartphone at home with no SIM card in it. It's going to stay at home. I'm going to take it to use photos and videos. But my real phone will just be a Nokia. And if they try to put the ID on it, I'm just going to tell them I don't have a smartphone. I see that a lot. Like, obviously our generation, the sort of social media generation, Gen Z, is plagued kind of our generation for a long time, but so a lot of people are moving away from smartphones, which is absolutely fine. They can do what they want. But to force people to have smartphones, to force the older generation to have smartphones, my grandma didn't even have internet, Dan, let alone a smartphone. So, how can you force her? Are you going to say she can't get the bus because, she doesn't have an ID? It's wild.
Let's have a little listen to Labour MP Lisa Nandy make an absolute fool of herself as she speaks about in terms of, you won't get a job. She is fucking spastic. Sorry, I'm going to get arrested for that. By the way. But basically, yeah, she is an idiot. Just listen to her, man. Listen to this one.
All UK citizens will have to have one. Well, the plan is that we're going to roll this out by the end of
No,
Parliament.
my question is, what if I don't? What if I've got my job, so I don't need to show this to anyone. So what if I just don't do it?
So if you don't have one, then you'll have a problem if you want to get a new job.
No, I'm saying I'm not doing that. So I'm not seeking a job. So why should I get the digital ID card? Why do I do it?
Well,
Is there some fine for not doing it? Is there an incentive to do it? I'm just thinking I've got no reason to do it.
Yeah, look, this isn't a heavy-handed approach. We're not planning to go around finding people. But what we are going to do is make sure that everybody's got one. In the same way, Charlie, as you've got a national insurance number, if you're a citizen of this country, we'll make sure that everybody has a digital ID.
So help me with this. I know we're plotting through this, but
Yeah.
so everyone watching who's got a job has got a national insurance number. So when these digital ID cards exist, if I just go to my employer and show them my national insurance number, is that not sufficient? Are they being precluded from employing me?
It won't be sufficient. I just want to be really clear about that.
So they can't employ people unless they've seen one of these
a digital ID.
cards.
Yes, that's right. That is the plan. And the major benefit of that to the entirety of the UK is that we will therefore be able to disrupt the illegal market where people come to this country and work illegally and undercut British workers who could otherwise get those
Well, a national
jobs.
insurance number would have the same effect, because if you're illegal, you can have one of those.
Well,
So she's admitting to national insurance number fraud there, right? Because surely that, as this smart guy said, surely that serves the same purpose as a digital ID. You cannot get a national insurance number in the UK if you're illegal, therefore you can't work. But yet we need more provisions to stop the illegal workers. Well, that just shows that there's probably fraud in the national insurance number scheme. So, that's just speechless, Dan.
She's a Neanderthal as well. She was like, oh, this isn't going to be a heavy-handed approach, but what we are going to do is make sure that everybody has a digital ID card. So what's the consequences of not having one? No, oh, this is not going to be a heavy-handed approach, but we will make sure that everybody has one.
Good luck. Because, even with a heavy-handed approach, I guarantee you the public will revolt against this.
And look, listen, I think the whole world has changed now, right? So before COVID, they probably would have got away with this. But people have changed now. They know that the government lied. They know all the things they did through COVID. No one trusts the government, nor do they trust their control, nor do they trust any word that they say. So prior to COVID, maybe they could have brought this out. They probably could have brought this out, and law-abiding citizens would have been like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. But nowadays, after COVID, it's just not going to happen. There's far too many rebels now. After COVID and all of the scams that will come from all of that and all these kind of things, people have awakened now. No one's asleep. Not many people are asleep. And they just won't accept it. They will just rebel and repeal it, and they just won't accept it. And it's not going to happen. But the fact that they said it's not going to come in, or it's going to come in by the end of Parliament, I'm kind of confident that's not going to happen anyway, because by the end of Parliament means 2029. Keir Starmer's pretty confident, seems to think he's going to be back in power to try and keep implementing this going forward. He's not. He ain't getting back in, nor is the Labour government getting back in, so I don't understand why they're even doing it. I could understand if he was trying to bring it in today, and that was it, but nah. He's doing it on the hunch that he's going to be in power by the end of Parliament. He ain't.
It's true. And you know what? COVID really, they did show their hand on what they wanted to do in terms of sort of limiting freedoms. I remember there was a story in COVID where a group of 3 lads drove, I think, a couple hundred miles to climb Snowdon, and it hit front page news. Just 3 lads going on a hike. It's in the open. It's absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, they've absolutely shown their hand as to how much control they want, and sort of, closing down on freedoms. And it's disgusting the way that they think they can, push this onto a population that has been awoken by the COVID scandal. I mean, I know me and so many other people that were really black-pilled about the COVID scandal. And, it was so difficult to sort of, fight against the whole government propaganda machine, as well as sort of citizens kind of policing themselves and policing other people. I had it personally, family members, commenting on my movements and stuff like that. And I'm sure you had it too, right?
Yeah, I fucked up to Mexico during the second one. And I had my, I'm going to give her a shout out. I had my mum's husband's parents say, "You are such a disrespectful person to the whole of this country, you're doing all this sorts of stuff." And I was like, do I regret it? Absolutely not, because I seen it. In the second lockdown, I seen what was happening, and I was like, I'm going. And under the cover of darkness, me and my brother just dipped and went out to Mexico. And you would have seen the scenes in Heathrow Airport. By the way, once you got through, bearing in mind the whole world shutting down, once you get through the security at the airport, the whole world was completely fine. And that was it. There was no sort of enforcing on where you were going. And just for clarification, I was work purposes as well, but also chose to live out there. So I was out there for about 6 months. It was a great experience during COVID. I hate to make the viewers jealous or whatnot, but I was certainly awoken in COVID, and I fucked off. So
I don't blame you. It was shocking. The second one was definitely worse than the first one as well.
I think I was watching a YouTuber, actually. He was like a train surfer. Have you ever watched this guy on YouTube? He like train surfs.
Is it Chivy?
I think so, yeah. I was laying in my bed. It was freezing cold. It must have been like January at the start of the year. I was just hearing that was going to be another lockdown or whatnot. And I was like, this dude's just living his life. I was like, right, I haven't really got that much dosh. I think my brother had a few grand saved up, and I was like looking at places that were open. Seen Mexico, and I was like, right, I'm going to go out to Mexico. We ended up getting an apartment out there for about 150 quid because the whole place, tourism, had collapsed. And we just lived it out in Mexico for a while. And as you're saying, with people policing yourselves, I think I put up a story that was in Mexico, and people messaging me saying, "You're so disrespectful, you're so this, that, and the other." People were unfollowing me. I was like, all right, enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself for the next 6 months, buddy. We were out in...
I mean, I was in university at the time, and there was the whole scandal about people getting fined £10,000 for having house parties. And, we would have house parties. Look, you're in university, like, we didn't really care. We weren't going to have our university experience, hindered by this whole thing. None of us really believed it anyway. But the police would routinely show up at these house parties. And one of my mates excuse me, one of my mates did get fined £10,000 that he later appealed in court. But yeah, that was used as a deterrent, as to put on the headlines, young teen fined £10,000 for house party for breaking COVID rules. I remember one time the police came to our door, And we had about 10 people hiding in the bathroom. Another 10 people hopped the fence at the back of the garden and ran down the street. And then we were like, okay, only 6 people stay, and 6 people stay. And yeah, we managed to get out of it like that. But, you know, we've really sort of resisted these sort of controls since they were implemented in COVID. And this is no different. I want to reiterate that. This is no different. This is exactly the same, yet they don't have the guise of an alleged global pandemic in order to bring in these emergency restrictions.
Yeah, no, exactly. And as I said, the British people are going to fight this. I've seen a lot of people saying that they ain't going to abide by it. And guys, make sure you don't abide by it. Don't just talk the talk. You know, you need to implement it with action. I'm sure me and Dom we're not going to be abiding. I know a lot of people that aren't going to be abiding. So don't let them force you. The more they force you, then all of a sudden you're a part of the problem. So yeah, resist it. Resist the digital ID. We spoke about digital IDs for quite a while, my man. There's probably going to be some more revelations from this. But do you want to go into something else? You said you wanted to share as a video of a flight deportation.
Yeah, that's correct. So this is a video that I've seen on my feed recently, and it's under £2,000 deportees. So basically, a journalist has filmed illegal migrants, some of whom have been convicted of sexual assaults and murder, on a flight being deported, but they were given debit cards and credit cards loaded up with £2,000. Now, we are literally incentivizing people to come to this country, and even if we do deport them, we are paying them £2,000 in cash. We can have a little look at this video now.
I've seen the first time ever that a journalist has managed to film on a deportation flight. And on that flight, many of those being deported who were convicted of crimes in this country, including sexual abuse and even murder, are filmed receiving a credit card loaded up with £2,000. Now, these are people who are convicts, convicted of, in some cases, the worst crimes. And viewers are asking, why are we giving them £2,000 when we've made them leave the country because they have committed crimes against the country?
Well, the first point to make is on deportations and removals. We've removed 35,000 people who didn't have a right to be in the country over the past year. It's an increased rate of removals. On the matter of credit cards, I haven't seen the report, and I expect the Home Office will respond to the report later today. I don't know the circumstances of that.
It's a resettlement fee, and it's only given if people cooperate with their deportation. But in the case of foreign criminals, people who've actually committed crimes, viewers are wondering how we've got that sort of money to give people who are convicts, who we're effectively kicking out of the country, so much cash.
Well, I haven't seen the report. As I say, it's best that my...
Yeah, so as you can see, the guy there just completely avoiding the question. I mean, he said 35,000 deportees. Okay, well, that's £7 million. By my best calculation. So we've given £7 million to people who've committed heinous crimes in this country and are wanting them to leave. It just really adds to the tally of how much we're giving these illegals. You know, we're giving them hotels, we're giving them credit cards, we're giving them iPhones. It's just insanity, and this will bankrupt the United Kingdom. We don't have a need to give these people anything. Nothing. We should deport them, and that's final. And yet we're giving them so much money, funded obviously by the taxpayers.
Yeah, well, yeah, as I said, the taxpayer is paying the burden. And just like any other country, it's just like with the digital IDs. They do absolutely everything but address the problem. So they allow them to come in. Just stop them from coming in. And stop. Why giving them £2,000? Why even just giving them money to even go to leave the country? Treat them like a criminal that they are. Chuck them out. Gone. You're out. That's it. There is no money. 2,000 quid. It's like this guy's going to be like, there's going to be a guy on his sixth flight. He's like, in a few years' time, he's like, yeah, I'll just do this every few months, get 2 Gs off the government, go back to Pakistan for a couple of weeks, and then, live like a king. Just do a pilgrimage across back over to the UK, get a free flight back and get 2 Gs. It's like, it's the easiest job ever.
Yeah, it's a complete racketeering system. And, you know, exactly, this is essentially what that £2,000 is going to be spent on, is trying to get back into Europe and into the UK. And, you know, again, not only are the migrants getting funded themselves, but obviously the massive NGO scam, the non-government organisation scam, bringing these people, which are funded, obviously, by wealthy donors. You know, it's the whole thing is a racketeering system. It's human trafficking to the nth degree, and we need to stop it at Calais. We need to stop it at the boats. I mean, I recently heard a really good podcast. I forgot the name, but you know, he said you'd be able to give France 800 million a year. You know, we could just have boots on ground in Calais. We could have British soldiers boots on ground in Calais to stop them at the source. We don't even need to let them get on the boats, let alone turn them round, because clearly the French are too busy eating frogs and snails and baguettes in order to actually solve the migrant crisis that's happening.
Let's be honest, they don't want to do anything about it. Them going over to the UK is better for them. They're like, well, yeah, we're just letting them out. They're out of our country now, so it's just simple. So of course they want them to go out the door. It's like a cost-free way of them going out of the door. It's like, oh, okay, cool, go on. What are we doing? 1,000 a day at some points? So 1,000, that's 1,000 people out, that's 1,000 illegals out of France. They know Starmer's 1 in, 1 out deal doesn't work, so they're profiting off of that, and they're also getting illegals out of their own country. So they're just like, yeah, happy days. Let's just let it continue. But we spoke about it time and time again. There's an easy solution to get it done. But as stated, the Labour government are just doing absolutely everything around actually solving the actual issue. And he spent so much time with Donald Trump over the last month, who has just done it on a bigger scale at a harder country. And they have got no illegals coming into their nation. So if he needs help, do it. The UK's piss easy to sort out. Sorry, there's no sympathy for the UK government to stop the boats. It's such an easy job. It literally is. We're an island, you know. If we were in mainland Europe, yes, it's a little bit more difficult. It's not that difficult, but it's a little bit more difficult. But my goodness me, we're an island, for God's sake. It's easy to sort out.
It's true, and you know, you'd say compare it to Donald Trump's obviously southern border. I think that's a bigger issue. You know, you've got thousands of miles of border connecting to Mexico. I would say that's a bigger problem to solve, and he solved it within a couple of weeks. You know, he's got the border up, the wall is up. He's got the National Guard there.
Is there, mate, is they've got a leader that actually wanted to stop it. They don't want to stop it. They're doing everything but stopping it. So if they wanted to stop it, they would stop it. But they're not stopping it, so they're not stopping it. That's just the situation. So essentially, as you said there, with the digital IDs, what they're suggesting is that illegals can come in, because then we're going to be able to find them because they haven't got a digital ID. And it's like, do you know the funny thing with the digital IDs? It's like making out as that the illegal immigrants are applying for jobs at HSBC, for God's sake. They're working for cash in hand jobs. It's already the case that they can't work in the country, even with a national insurance number, without driving licenses and a passport. I mean, what jobs in your time, official jobs, you've worked as sales jobs, you had to show your national insurance number and you had to show some form of ID to get the job. We've already got that parameter in place. They're literally just suggesting, well, the illegals can come in, but they can't work for HSBC or other sort of jobs. They're not fucking applying for those jobs in the first place.
It's true, you know, they're doing these like, you know, cash in hand jobs. They're working at car washes. They're working for Deliveroo. The whole Deliveroo thing is actually a massive scandal as well, because I could go and create a Deliveroo account tomorrow. I can put it on a Facebook group and charge people £80 a month to £100 a month to use the Deliveroo account. So they'll be using my digital ID in order to profit, and then I would just send them the money that they make. Like that.
And you also get some recurring. So yeah, they pay for the account, then you get 20% of their monthly earnings. So it's like passive income. So British people are complicit into it because there is an incentive there. So It's just all horseshit, man. It's just bullshit. And to be honest, we're going to get angry over no reason at all, because we know it's just a guise and they're just complicit in all of this. And they're going to continue deporting these illegals and giving them 2 Gs for their deportation, which is absolutely scandalous.
Exactly. And the whole... I should say one last point here on the subject of one in, one out. That means every single illegal migrant that comes into this country that gets deported, we will then have to bring someone else in. So illegal, like, it doesn't change the figure, because you come in, you leave, and then we get someone else in. So every single migrant that comes represents someone that will stay in this country full time. So there is no deportation, there is no negative net migration here. There is only a massive, massive increase.
Facts. On the subject of migrants as such, did you see all the fallout from Nigel Farage, of course, talking about them, allegedly eating swans and geese and all these kinds of things on LBC? Okay, let's watch the video first, and then actually we've got some video footage, actually, funnily enough, after this. So essentially he said this on LBC, and then he was smeared by the mainstream media, said that this is not happening in the UK, but just days after, we're getting video footages of it actually happening, which we're going to get to towards the end. But have a watch of this LBC clip of Nigel Farage.
Said I'd give you a month. It's 12 months. You think Haitian immigrants are eating cats and dogs?
I'll have a tenner with you. That,
Right.
within the next month or so, we find some evidence of it.
If you can prove it, I've got my £10 ready.
Well, if you can prove it hasn't happened, that other way
But
around.
are you prepared now to say that that one was utterly nonsensical?
If I said to you that swans were being eaten in royal parks in this country, that carp were being taken out of ponds and eaten in this country by people who come from cultures that have a different... Would you agree it's happening here?
I've certainly read... I didn't know about swans. I've read about carp being fished,
well, there you
yes.
go. So, look, neither of us can prove
But
or
who
disprove
are
this.
taking the carp and the swans?
People who come from countries where that's quite acceptable
Well,
to
I've
do
read
so.
headlines that it's Eastern Europeans, Romanians and people like that.
So I believe.
Is that what you've heard?
So I believe.
So it's a similar sort of story. They're eating
Similar story.
They're eating our carp, they're eating our swans.
But, I'm not saying that. I'm just putting it back as an argument.
All right, I don't get my £10?
Well, I should get my £10 because you can't prove the other way either.
So he was smeared for that, Dom, straight after. And then, of course, we actually had one of the reform mayors on Sky News, Andrea Jenkins, basically, again, literally give her own account of it happening, right? And they're still saying that it's not true. Have a watch this Sky News clip quickly, and then we're going to get into your reaction. And then, of course, I've got video footage that's come over the last couple of days that it actually is happening.
But the problem here is, Andrew, there's now a pattern of reform politicians saying things that, frankly, the people who are actually at the front line of these things go, there's no evidence for this.
But can I just say, look, I was a councillor in Boston, and there was a serious issue with our ducks on the river with them being stolen and eaten. It is a fact. Come to Boston, ask the local people.
I mean, I don't know about the case in Boston, but in this case
and that's
here,
going back 10 years
there is
ago.
clearly no evidence.
Well, clearly, would you like to come to Boston?
Andrea?
Are you doing yoga there or something? To try and calm yourself from, speaking on a panel with somebody who's in reform? I mean, very bizarre reaction you have there.
Andrew, but there is no evidence for this. You accept that? I mean, the people literally...
I've seen evidence in Boston myself 10 years ago of the ducks.
We're not talking about Boston. We're talking about swans in royal parks. Your leader went on the radio and said he had heard, or he...
Well, he'd heard.
Yeah, but you can't just go around saying you've heard stuff, can you?
Apparently you can. Apparently you can. The royal parks who run the park said there was absolutely no evidence of this. It is extraordinary.
What do you think they'd actually want to put that out there?
So yeah, I mean, thoughts on that firstly. So she's giving her own account that it's actually happening. Okay, royal parks. Okay, but there's more swans in the UK than just the royal parks. There's about 8 royal parks. So yeah, they're heavily secured. So probably not happening in the royal parks, but it certainly is happening across the country with swans and geese.
Yeah, and she goes back to saying, the heads of the royal parks aren't saying that this is happening. Well, they don't have a fucking tally for every single swan that's on the lake. They're not geo-tracked, are they? And it of course it's happening. I've seen many videos of swans being literally killed and taken up to different apartments. And you know, this is how can they not trust their own eyes when they see this happening? It's beyond me. And it just goes to show, you know, her reaction tells it all. She was literally like speechless. She was trying to, you know, not explode essentially because someone said they were eating the swans. It's factually true. And Nigel was kind of dancing around the issue here. But if we're going to be honest, you know, there is video proof of it, and we can get into that right now.
Have a watch of this video here. This is just 3 videos that have appeared since this sort of Nigel Farage LBC piece.
What you do with that?
Yeah,
What you doing with that, bro?
I got it.
You gonna eat it?
Yeah.
You catch it outside?
Yeah, it's important now. Now it's important.
Let me see. Let me see it. Is it alive or dead?
It's broken down.
You gonna eat it?
Eat here.
Yeah?
Eat here.
You gonna eat it? Yeah?
No.
Flipping hell. Why are you gonna eat it for?
Nothing.
Let it go, man.
What is going on here? He's on last one, man.
What's his name, mate?
What's his name?
This guy just cracked a duck's neck, bro, taking it.
So that's just 3 bits of video evidence there straight away, and you literally just heard one of them, albeit that first clip was a goose, but still, regardless, still sort of same sort of family. They literally just admitted themselves, what are you going to do with that? Eat it. Yes, we're going to eat it. So it's just such bullshit that the mainstream media are just like, you know, ridiculing what Nigel Farage says is just some thing he just made up.
But guys, it's not happening because the heads of the royal parks have said it's not happening. Therefore, they must be true. It must be true. It's not happening, guys. Even though there is literally video evidence of it happening. Like, they are... Yeah.
This famous video on the RSPCA, albeit it was about 10-15 years ago, where they were doing investigating into it because their swans were going missing and then they were finding it in their food.
Wild. Yeah, and you know, they're asking you to not trust your eyes and ears when you watch these videos because they're wrong and it's just not happening. Yeah, you know, I know, right? And you know, it's definitely not happening at all. You know, the videos are all AI made, they're fake, photoshopped. No, this isn't happening. But this goes to show how alien the culture is. There's no sane British man that you know, heritage British man that would actually go out and kill a swan and eat it, snap its neck and cook it. You know, and this is a massive thing in Canada, by the way. I will say that, you know, they have protected, you know, carp and cod that you're not allowed to fish in certain times of the year because they're trying to reproduce. And you know, they have massive amounts of immigration, especially from places like India as well. And they're just going and fishing them without licenses and just taking them back and, you know, completely disrupting the natural ecosystem there. And this is exactly the same thing. It's a lack of respect for the culture, lack of respect for the native, you know, animals that live in this land, and lack of respect to the sort of heritage animals that we have. You know, swans are protected for a reason. You are not allowed to kill a swan for reasons, and these people do not give 2 fucks about that.
As the saying goes, import the third world, become the third world. This is what they do in their own country. He's just going, why am I going to go to the store, the butcher, and buy a chicken when I can just go to my local park and pull out a goose, which is a bit bigger and it's completely free?
Exactly. It completely bewilders me. Why would they pay, you know, £5, £10 from Co-op when they can just nick a swan?
Yes, just because this is completely alien to our culture. Going on to some more bits of disgrace, I've shared a lot of videos with regard to the police's conduct in this country. We've of course spoke about Katie Hopkins, we've of course spoke about other individuals as well. However, we've got another video footage here of an individual's house being approached by the police. And so the saying goes, he was called by the police because he said F Hamas in a social media post. Yeah, let's have a little watch of this quickly.
Evening.
Hello.
Hello. Come in.
You're all right. I'm going to explain a few bits first.
Look it up.
Basically, I got a report. Sorry, colleague.
Sit yourself down.
No, it's all right. We got a report I'd say about a month ago.
Yeah.
In essence, you posted some things on the internet that they didn't appreciate.
Really?
It's gone over to one. I'm not saying you have to, but I'll explain a few steps. And
Yeah.
In terms of that, basically, our hate crime team reviewed it and said there are offences there we need to explore.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the time is 21:31. You are under arrest for what's referred to as Section 19.
Section 19?
I'll explain it in a second. You don't have to say anything, but how many defence you don't mention one question, something which relates to any court. Anything you do say may be game evidence. Basically, the Section 19 refers to spreading what we say like racial hatred. So you've posted something online that we believe is spreading racial hatred.
Twitter, Facebook, what?
I can't explain too much. It's just to give you the context beforehand.
It'll be put to you in an interview.
Because I appreciate you've never been arrested before, have you?
Yeah, once or twice.
Once or twice, apologies.
Frequent flyer.
Apologies, I didn't think you were. Basically, how it works now is then, obviously, if you've got stuff you'd like to gather, obviously I'm more than willing to talk through what you're able to take with you.
What, you're taking me away now?
Yes, so you're under arrest, so you're going to Harrogate, unfortunately.
You're taking me to Harrogate in the middle of the night over a tweet?
I am, unfortunately.
Is this what you signed up the police to do?
This is my role. I'm trying to be reasonable with you here.
So
if there's stuff you'd like to gather, I'm more than willing to allow you to gather some sort of stuff like medication, if you've got any numbers you need. But at the moment...
You join the police to go and arrest people at night for tweets online?
Do you need any medication? I can't imagine that you are going to be in very long, but do you need any medication that you take at night?
No.
No. Do you need anything else you can think of? Wallet? Do you want to change your shoes or out?
I'd like to put some shoes on if that's alright with you.
Of course it is.
Righty, huh?
We will give you a search here.
Search?
Yeah, just to make sure there's nothing in your pocket that you can harm yourself with whilst you're being transported in the van. We're going to do it in here rather than outside so all your neighbours can gawk.
Oh, fill your boots, mate. I'm good. You do understand that I'm going to make a maximum fuss about this free speech union.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys just doing your jobs, obviously, but your dickhead bosses have just opened up a world of shit.
Trust me, if I didn't have to be here, I wouldn't have been. But I'm happy to give you...
I'm quite certain you two have got like 50 better things to do. Because what's your patch? Your Harrogate, Northallerton...
We're referred to as Hambleton. So
yeah.
We're also Harrogate District. So if
but
you're
of
able
course,
to
like the police they're not going to be able to credibly tell anybody that they're under-resourced now if they're sending people out to arrest people for tweets. Well, it's no point us debating it, is it? It's your dickhead bosses. Could you... right, just a sec. Would you...
We'll be taking that first, unfortunately.
Right, okay. Well, just a second before you do.
So you're seeing this in real time, that essentially the guy has been arrested for a tweet, is what's been said there. I mean, look, we hear about it all the time, but when you see real video examples of this, and the police actually saying, oh, if I didn't have to be here, I wouldn't, etc. He doesn't even believe what he's doing himself, which is also awful to see. But yeah, I mean, you're seeing it in real time. What do you make of that?
You know, Dan, it's getting to the point where the police have to pick a side. You know, following orders is not a reasonable justification to be arresting people for social media posts at 10 o'clock at night. You know, eventually they will have to say, or will have to sort of think, what they're doing is just and is within the sort of scope of the law. Now, the law is obviously not in favour of free speech in the UK, but at the end of the day, you know, they're literally arresting people for tweets that they tweeted a month ago.
Right, I'm going to get the post up now because I'm just on X. You might be wondering what was the actual post that he put up. Here's the post so everybody can see. This comes from the man himself, so I'll just share my screen with you, Dom. As you can see here. So this was the post. So he said, F Palestine, F Hamas, F Islam, want to protest, F off to a Muslim country and protest. So that was the tweet the individual got arrested for.
Wow. Is this the same one that Tommy tweeted as well?
Yeah, so they're obviously going after those individuals that shared that tweet or posted that tweet.
Insane. It's just wild. I mean,
that he said that he was posting racial hatred. So he said F Palestine, right? It's fuck a country. What would the same thing happen if I said fuck France? No. Fuck Hamas. So if I said, well, I mean, Irish people say fuck the British Army, go on home, British soldiers, go on home. Would you get arrested for that? No. And fuck Islam. There's no blasphemy laws. So if I said fuck Christianity, would the same thing happen? Probably not. And if I said want to protest, fuck off to a Buddhist country and protest, or fuck off to a Christian country and protest, would that be a problem? Exactly. So there you go. I mean, literally, you can literally see that there is. I mean, there's two-tier based on it, but we don't have blasphemy laws. But the way they get around it is saying, going around on racial hatred. How's that racial hatred? He said that and there's no race mentioned first and foremost, but he literally said a terrorist organization, fuck them, yeah, fuck them, right? And then said a country. I mean, F a country is an opinion. And also fuck a certain religion. How is that racial hatred?
Yeah, and there is no race ascribed to a religion, okay? That's the key differentiator here. You know, anyone can be Muslim. You're seeing like Russian people be Muslims as well, and they're sort of predominantly Eastern Europe and white. You know, obviously Hamas is a designated terrorist organization, Palestine's a country. I'm just really really finding it hard to understand what race is he being racist to here. He's not being racist at all, in fact. And he said, fuck off back to a Muslim country. Well, it's true. Like, if you wanted to make a change in this, you know, why is the Muslim Brotherhood not sort of backing the refugees created by the sort of Israel-Palestine issue? Why do these people have to come to Western countries where they're so culturally in-aligned with our values and cultures, and they start eating swans and ducks in royal parks? It completely bewilders me. But, you know, this has gone viral in America as well for all the wrong reasons. We are an absolute embarrassment on the world stage right now, and it's because of videos like this is why we are the laughing stock of the world.
Exactly, and it's going to continue, especially when digital IDs come into implementation. You know, you'll be able to be monitored exactly about what you're posting on your social media. Big Brother is watching you, ladies and gentlemen. Big Brother is after you, and you will not fall out of line under this Stasi government.
It's true, you know, they're gonna stop you from flying and eating meat and leaving the house and getting a job, all because you said some hurty words online.
You touched on a Muslim Brotherhood there. You've got a piece for us on the Muslim Brotherhood, have you not?
Well, I've got a video for sure. You know, this is a compilation that was made by, it was posted by Wall Street Apes on Twitter, so we can have a look at this. Now, essentially, they're declaring they'll impose Sharia law on America through, as they say, through the ballot box or bullet. There is no in between. And they talk about the sort of the way they view democracy now. They used to be very anti-democracy, and now they say democracy is the new jihad. So we can take a look at this video here.
Now it's getting through Congress. So before it was by the sword, now it's getting themselves into parliament and then making laws that act as the sword, the Islamophobia law in Canada, M103.
Yeah. Muslim Brotherhood.
I find that there are only two things which are open to our movements. Ballot or bullet, nothing in between.
I used to say that democracy is haram. Now I say participation in democracy is our jihad.
That's our jihad. We're going to fight not through the bullets, but the ballots.
Going to the ballot and voting is now an obligatory action, fard ayn. And it is a jihad that is now needs to be done because this is our modern jihad. You can elect a person who wants the Sharia.
Because in the United States, what we do know is that in the past election, just this last election, there have been over 800 Muslim candidates running for office.
We may end up with about 50 members of Congress in the next 6 years. That's really the essence of dismantling the system of injustice, is to replace it with the people who represent the Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah, well, we've seen that happening in real time within the United Kingdom as well. I mean, look at Angela Rayner. Well, before she was sacked, she was bringing in those new Islamophobia laws, and we're always seeing these Islamic people, of course, in high positions, whether it be the Home Secretary, whether it, of course, be the Mayor of London. We're seeing it being infiltrated right now. So it's happening in real time, actually. So what they're saying is being represented, especially in our country, in real time. America are a bit behind us with regard to it, and with Trump being in power, that's not probably going to be the case. But we're seeing it in real time in the UK.
This is 100% true. We're seeing these independent candidates get pushed up in sort of high Muslim concentrated areas. And their whole reason to do that is to push, Islamophobia laws into the parliament, and obviously push really just the Sharia into the UK. I mean, look, Dan, you can't go to Dubai, you can't go to United Arab Emirates and get into any governmental power or positions of power, can you?
No, you can't. It's because we allow it. I hear Tate speak about it all the time. Europeans and white people in general allow their replacement in real time. We just allow it. And as I said, we always talk about it and we always bring it up, but the 2017 Foreign Minister of the UAE, on what he spoke about is really coming true. And you can see it. They're speaking it out. They're not hiding it. They're saying it publicly in videos of what their plan is. And we're seeing it happen in real time. And yeah, it's because we're all, well, not all of us, the viewers of Point Blank Podcast aren't, certainly, but people are asleep to this.
Yeah, 100%. They want this. This is like their modern day jihad. They want to come here, they want to take over, and they want to implement their laws. And it really goes back to sort of what is Islam. It's an expansionist, religion. The whole point of them being here is to convert people, to increase their population and overall become a majority of this country. And we cannot let that happen. It's frankly dangerous. And, there are so many Muslim countries out there that, they're culturally aligned to. And yet the reason they pick Christian countries and Western countries is to elicit change in favour of the sort of Sharia law that they want so badly in these countries. And yeah, absolutely, the UAE doesn't subscribe to the sort of Muslim Brotherhood part of the religion. And that's because they in fact warned us, as you said, about the sort of rise of the Muslim Brotherhood. And because it's just dangerous for democracy. We allow this to happen. Why can't we say that you have to have 3 generations of people or family members above you who have all worked and lived in the UK and born in the UK in order to become a member of parliament? And they'll use the same words, sexist, Islamophobic, racist, whatever, in order to sort of, it's suicidal empathy. That's what it is. We're being kind to the people that want to take over us. And the whole thing is just completely futile, because what happens when we're a minority in our own country? What does the UK look like? What do our banks look like? What do the infrastructure look like? What does the demographic look like? No one is asking how the native people of this country feel about this failed open border experiment. And clearly there is a lot of public outcry about these issues due to the massive assaults, due to the sort of segmentation of their part of society. They don't integrate. They're not part of British culture. They're not part of any westernized values. And the whole thing is just a complete sham. And this will just continue to get worse if we don't address the issue now.
Facts. I mean, you spend a lot of time in Indonesia. You wouldn't be. You're not even allowed to work there, mate. You're not even allowed to work in their restaurants. You have to bring your own money into the country to keep their economy going. You wouldn't. wouldn't even think about being in a position of power. You wouldn't even be in a police force. Have you ever seen a white person be a policeman out there? Have you ever seen a white guy fucking hold a position of power in Indonesia? It just doesn't happen. Yeah. Yeah, to get some dosh out of them and you know, whatever. But, you know, they stand by their own traditions of their country and they're not losing their identity, despite Bali is especially prospering and becoming this massive place. You can't even own land there. You can lease land for 30 years. But as soon as that lease holds up, the villa that you've built and lived in, all of a sudden goes back to the Indonesian people again. I mean, it's an interesting thing. As a foreigner out there, despite so many foreigners actually living there, you can't do anything really. You know, and fair play to them. You know, you can't work in a restaurant and take their jobs. You can't take their jobs from them. You can be a part of the boom and you can create things there. But ultimately, the people that are from there and native to the land there are going to be getting the jobs and we're going to be working out there.
Exactly, but I wouldn't even want to go there and change their culture because that's their culture. I have no right to do that. You know, this is their culture, this is their country, this is their government, it's their way of life, and they should decide how this happens. But yet, you know, people who come to the UK are so inclined to try and change, you know, the most successful culture in history. You know, when are we going to start getting credit for all the good things we've done in this world? All we do is get belittled in the media for our sort of colonization of the world. You know, we completely modernized everything. You know, there's a reason why English is the second most spoken language in the world. And that's because of the influence we've had over the course of history. So, you know, we can obviously get into, you know, the sort of colonization and how we've sort of given away our empire. I guess that's a segment for another podcast. But it just goes to show, you know, why are they so inclined to change our culture when it's clearly so successful?
Yeah, but but do you know what the funny thing is and the ironic thing is that they're trying to change their culture? They're doing it because they're allowed to do it. And actually, white people, white British native people, even black native British people, are all complicit in it. They're allowing it to happen. You know, that's the reason as to why. If you look at the pro-Palestine rally, it's literally white middle-aged women and men who are limp-wristed and frail. They're the ones that are asking for more refugees to come in. They're like, please invade us. Please come here. Please, please, please live in our country. Please commit all this stuff. They're the reason. Our own people are complicit in it. You don't rarely see at these Palestine protests or you see all these protests of refugees welcome. People of colour actually there. You do see a couple of them, but majority of them are white British people. So they're complicit in their culture and their nation being eroded in real time.
It's true, and you know, it goes back to that sort of suicidal empathy. They want more migrants, but not in their house. Have you seen that guy who goes around with a clipboard and says, "Hi, we're looking to sign up people to get refugees in their house," and none of them say yes? You know, they want to just get more people in, and then, you know, have someone else deal with the problem. They have no idea.
Of those people who rode luck on the housing boom of London and Hampstead are these sort of white middle-aged people, but they're champagne socialists. They're sat on millions of worth of property but still identify them as working class, which they're no longer working class. They're the people that vote Labour, they're the people that advocate for Keir Starmer, they're the people that advocate for refugees welcome because they're not being effective. They've made their sort of money out of sheer luck of buying a house at a certain time where it boomed off, and now just they're not going to be affected. You know, the illegals, the migrants aren't going to be changing Hampstead's demographic, for instance. It's going to be in other areas, which the working class, the true working class, is seeing in real time.
100%, and that will increase dramatically with the rise of HMOs as well, when you sort of decentralize the population of these illegal migrants into sort of 4 or 5 bedroom houses directly in working class areas. It's taking houses from people who would otherwise buy this house as a first-time house to get on the property ladder. Instead, you know, it artificially increases the demand for these properties, which increases the price for these properties. It pushes the sort of young people of our generation, it pushes them out of the housing market. I know so many people who have not moved out of their house, even at sort of 24, 25, 26, because they simply can't afford to. And this is the sort of environment, the economy that is created by the massive illegal immigrant scandal. And you have banks buying thousands of homes to push onto these government-led schemes where they're getting, 5 years rent up front plus a massive renovation at the end of the tenancy. It's completely disgusting, and all it does is your tax money is now competing against you in the housing market and the rental market. And all that's going to do is just push more people into poverty.
Facts. You got a segment on us with regard to small boat holidays. I'm interested to hear a bit about that, actually.
Yeah, so I'll send over this link to you right now. Essentially, one of the asylum claims, or people who claimed asylum and it was successful, there we are, made a rather interesting video regarding what he did to celebrate his asylum claim being accepted. So we can take a look at this.
The Home Office is investigating a small boat migrant after he appeared to celebrate getting refugee status in Britain by going on holiday to Afghanistan. The man, known as Usama online, arrived on a dinghy in 2022 and made a claim for asylum on the grounds his home city of Kabul was too dangerous. But videos he has posted online show he appeared to celebrate his legal status with an 8-week jaunt in the summer of 2024, travelling 5,000 miles to his home city of Kabul. He later posted videos of his plane trip back from Afghanistan through Dubai, writing alongside the clip, quote, "Back to UK." Last night, the Home Office launched an urgent investigation into the videos and the man's status in the UK. Usama first entered Britain on a packed dinghy in April of 2022 as one of 2,143 people who also crossed from Calais that month. In a brazen 16-second clip posted to his 3,500 followers, he posed in a headscarf with a red life jacket issued by a vile people smuggler. After arriving in Britain, the man posted a string of videos from top British landmarks including Tower Bridge, Canary Wharf, Brighton Beach and, in an ironic twist, the White Cliffs of Dover. Yet in September 2024, the man posted a compilation video of his best bits from an apparent 2-month-long break in Afghanistan. The series of videos shows the back of a convoy of luxury Lexus and Toyota cars on a road trip around scenic Takar.
Wow. I mean, we know it's already going on, but this is what you're getting. Super frustrating. Yeah, I mean, literally going on vacation. He's being funded by the taxpayer. Came over claiming asylum, and this is the fraud that you're seeing. But they just don't want to admit it.
And if you went onto LBC and said asylum seekers were going back to their home countries after claiming asylum on the grounds that it's too dangerous, they would say, "Oh, well, that's a load of baloney. Give me some proof. Let me see it happening." Well, here's fucking proof for you, you knobhead. This man has literally filmed every single part of his journey. And yet, this is way more common than we think, by the way. It just goes to show the rampant fraud that is within the asylum claim system. None of these asylum claims are legitimate. Absolutely none of them. And we should not be accepting any.
Theory of what he's doing, he's flexing his life in the United Kingdom and kind of showing other people that it can be done, that he's there. He documented his whole journey. And if you are someone that's living in a shit pit and seeing him living a bit of a luxury life, now in the UK, being able to get a flight, the guy probably never been on a flight in his life until he got to the UK. Being able to go back to his country for 8 weeks, showing it. He's showing the path to others to encourage others to do that same path. I wouldn't be surprised if he's now a new digital marketer where he's selling a course on his step-by-step guide on how he got to the UK and is now allowed to come back to Afghanistan for 8 weeks and live a life of luxury in his Lexuses.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at that fact either, I'm sure that's a massive sort of market there for people who want to try and get into this country. And yeah, they can connect them with the same human traffickers that got him into the country and maybe take a sort of fee. Yeah, 100%. That is, you know, that's not far-fetched theory there. I think that's pretty accurate.
Disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful. But anyway, digital IDs will be coming soon, so the boats will be stopping. Remember that, Dom. Make sure you conform. In the last episode, we spoke about, of course, the UK recognising Palestine as a state. And Italy were one of the countries actually that decided not to recognise Palestine as a state. We've seen Melanie, of course, have a stand with the United States, which is quite refreshing to see. However, there were major riots where Islamists were taking over, trying to cause mayhem in the city to try and get their own way. But why is there so many Islamists there that are trying and push Italy to do something? It's an Italian country, and there's so many Islamists here just causing scenes and riots. And I'm going to show you this video footage because it's downright shocking. But the sheer volume of these individuals that are visitors trying to overthrow the government's say of Italy. I just can't make it up, really. But have a look, watch this footage here. Some of the Italy riots. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Italy has to do with recognising Palestine, but this goes to show, like, when you change the demographic, this is what's going to happen. They're going to use either ballots or bullets, and this is the bullets case. You know, they will show their opposition to your, the rights of your sovereign nation with violence. This is the first. No, after you.
Individuals are merely a guest. They are a guest, and they are trying to overthrow what the Italians say or do.
It's true, and if they don't like it, they can just go somewhere else. I don't understand why they're so hell-bent on being in Western countries when, they're clearly not happy with how Western countries are, acting in terms of the whole Palestine situation. If they really wanted to support a country and pay taxes towards a cause that they think is beneficial to their sort of ideology, then go to a Muslim country. It's so simple.
Not even. These individuals are showing sheer aggression. Why don't they go out there and put their actions in place and start fighting for Palestine? Get out there, of course, start paying their taxes there, and of course, fight for the cause that they really believe in. Why don't they just jump out there and do that? They seem that passionate about it. Why don't they get their hands dirty, get themselves out on the ground?
100%, and it goes to show, what the hell does recognising Palestine on a piece of paper do to the actual, the situation of the country? It's a complete arbitrary issue. It's a semantic issue. It's not a real thing. The Palestine and the West Bank are there regardless of whether you recognise them as a state or not. And most countries in the world do recognise them as a state, ours included. Now that Keir Starmer's changed his tune on that one. But yeah,
let's see what Melanie said with regard to it.
Guardi, io personalmente continuo a considerare che il riconoscimento della Palestina in assenza di uno Stato che abbia i requisiti della sovranità, non risolve il problema, non produce risultati tangibili, concreti per i palestinesi. Dopodiché si dice che però il riconoscimento della Palestina può essere un efficace strumento di pressione politica, e va bene, capisco, però dobbiamo anche capire su chi. Nel senso, io penso che la principale pressione politica vada fatta nei confronti di Hamas, perché è Hamas che ha iniziato questa guerra ed è Hamas che impedisce che la guerra finisca rifiutandosi di consegnare gli ostaggi. Quindi diciamo che seguo il ragionamento, però allora annuncio che la maggioranza presenterà in aula una mozione per dire: il riconoscimento della Palestina deve essere subordinato a due condizioni: il rilascio degli ostaggi e ovviamente l'esclusione di Hamas da qualsiasi dinamica di governo all'interno della Palestina, perché dobbiamo capire quali sono le priorità. Io non sono contraria al riconoscimento della Palestina, però dobbiamo darci le priorità giuste. Penso che un'iniziativa del genere possa trovare anche, spero che possa trovare anche il consenso dell'opposizione. Non trova sicuramente il consenso di Hamas, non trova magari il consenso da parte, degli estremisti islamisti, ma dovrebbe trovare consenso nelle persone di buon senso.
So there you go. I mean, a lady that's talking absolute sense.
Yeah, exactly. She talked about the political pressure there as well, and the fact that it doesn't really solve the issue. End of the day, they're recognising Hamas as a terrorist organisation, as they recognise them under law. I don't think that solves anything. I think what you're doing is actually putting fuel on the fire. I don't agree with a couple of things she said. I don't agree with the fact that Hamas started this war. I think the war goes back to sort of 1947 when Israel first sort of started occupying and annexing land from the Palestinians, but that's besides the point. I'm not whistling the fact that the October 7th attacks were absolutely abhorrent, and they clearly are a disgrace. Thousands of Israelis, innocent Israelis, were killed in the making, but really that just gives the the precipice for Israel to sort of continue their expansion into the West Bank. But it just goes back to the point: what does this have to do with us? What does this have to do with Western countries? This is their issue to solve, and the only reason why this is such a massive sort of political talking point is because of the demographic change that's happening in Western countries. And you're seeing right now what happens when you don't bend the knee to these invasive people, and they will destroy your country's political establishments.
Again, as we say, import the third world, become the third world. They treat the country that they live in as they treat the shit pits that they currently live in. Look at all the shit pits that they live in, and they're like that for a reason, because it's the people that live in there that make it like that. And then you bring that sort of attitude, that demeanour to Western countries, and you see the result, which you're seeing in Milan there, where they're trashing the place because they're not getting a political decision that favours them. They have no fucking right. It's Italian people and what Italian people want. They don't have a say. They're visitors. They're merely visitors. That is it. And all of those individuals should be rounded up and deported straight out for some of the individuals that aren't a citizen in Italy, because they're trashing the place. Absolutely disgusting. It really does boil my blood. Speaking about Gaza, there's been a revelation actually with regard to former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. He's currently involved in discussions about leading a post-war transitional authority in Gaza, which he wants to head up. The proposal, which is said to have a backing from the White House, would see Blair lead a governing authority supported by the UN and Gulf nations before handing control back to Palestinians. His office said he would not support any proposals that displace the people of Gaza, and Tony Blair, who took the UK into Iraq war, ironically in 2003, has been a part of high-level planning talks with the US and other parties about the future of Gaza. So yeah, they're looking at Tony Blair potentially heading up a government out there post the war. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Well, he's just an Israeli, Tel Aviv spokesman, really. I don't believe him for a second, anything he says. He's the same man in COVID who said that the only way people will get their liberties back is to take the vaccine. So he's just simply a establishment spokesman. And I don't believe him for a second when he says he doesn't favour displacing the Palestinians. That's the whole reason why they're trying to annex the West Bank and get people out there. You saw Trump offer $10,000 to the Palestinians in order to leave for 15 years. The end of the day, foreign policy for the US and the UK is dictated by Tel Aviv in the Middle East. It's the only reason we got into the Afghanistan, only reason we got into Iraq, the only reason we were in Syria. It's completely controlled by Tel Aviv, and it's the exact same situation with Palestine. They are forcing our hand to try and make sure that we do their dirty work in trying to remove these people from their sort of homelands, rather than sort of Tel Aviv and Israel take the full accountability and blame from there. Tony Blair is a shady character. Since he came into power, everything has been on decline, and really we need to reverse everything that he did in Parliament.
Got his fingers in a lot of whole pies, hasn't he?
He does. I don't know why he would be the sort of head of the West Bank there, and I don't even know what his sort of goals are and positions are, but I can tell you it's not in favour of the Palestinian people for sure.
Absolutely. You've got a little bit of piece of us on Vietnam actually as well, have you not?
Yeah, it just goes back into it's not breaking news, but it goes back into the digital ID talk. Now, Vietnam already tried to roll out digital IDs, because of the massive sort of widespread, they essentially weren't taking these IDs. The Vietnamese public weren't, and they ended up deactivating over 86 million bank accounts. And they described this as a significant data cleansing effort, as they deactivate 86 million bank accounts as part of a national push for biometric verification. So essentially, if you didn't have digital ID, you would get your bank account taken from you. So this is what's to come in the UK. This was launched in 2022 with full implementation by 2025 and a vision extending to 2030. So this has happened this year. And the Vietnam only had roughly 200 million bank accounts before this. So nearly half of the bank accounts were deactivated, which is absolutely wild. So yeah, again, this is just a precursor for what is to come in the UK. If you do not abide to these digital ID laws and biometric data, you will get your bank account taken from you.
I think China sets a precedent as well. What's going to be coming if the digital IDs come into effect. Just to finish off, actually, I've been seeing a lot of weird news actually starting to come out from sort of Denmark, Sweden, and France over the last 24 hours, and I suppose it's pretty interesting indeed. But essentially last night, breaking news emerged that Denmark announced that Aalborg Air Base of the Danish Air Force and Aalborg Airport had both been closed after new drone intrusions by unknown drones. So essentially these countries in the Nordic, Sweden and Denmark, have seen drones just infiltrate their airspace. And actually this morning we got a bit of a head up from Sweden saying Swedish announced that a large drone with flashing red and green lights, similar to the ones in Denmark, have been spotted near the country's main naval base in Karlskrona. So they're essentially lingering around their military areas, their military bases, these unknown drones. They still don't understand where these drones have come from and what they're doing. But there was also another report this morning from France stating the same, that they've had some unknown drones into their airspace, reporting that unknown drones intruded the airspace over a military site in Mourmelon-le-Grand in France over the weekend, which is in the north of France. So France also reporting that. More on Denmark is that Denmark this morning have once again closed its airspace due to drones. Third time it has happened. The airspace near Aalborg Airport in northern Denmark was shut down after reports of unidentified UAVs. Police later said they were unable to locate the drones. Aalborg is home of one of Denmark's military bases, and the day before the unidentified drones had been spotted near airports of Aalborg, Esbjerg and Sonderborg, as well as other Danish Air Force bases. All of them managed to leave Danish airspace, and while it's still unknown who launched them or from where, Danish military officials are convinced they were operated by professionals. So maybe just one to watch upon here, but certainly something's happening in the airspaces of a lot of European countries' Air Force bases and military bases.
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing as well Russia kind of encroach on Poland's airspace as well with some of their drones. So I think that might be a pretty interesting move by them. All I'm seeing from the sort of Ukrainian war is escalation from both sides. We're seeing Putin link up with is it Xi Jinping, the head of the CCP, and also Kim Jong-un as well. We're seeing Trump say that Ukraine can win all of the land back that they've lost to Russia, which I think is absolutely ludicrous. We see him change his tune on that as well, which is very interesting. Not only was it just a month ago before the Putin meeting that he was saying, that Ukraine might have to give up some land, which I think is pretty fair. But now we're seeing him change his tune after that meeting because there was a no deal. It's interesting. He's talking about selling as many weapons to NATO, that they need. We're seeing funding increase for Ukraine. We're seeing, there's these crazy statements like, they can win back all the land. Who's going to be fighting for them? They're pulling people off the streets. They don't have the manpower to do this type of stuff. Is it going to be NATO that's getting involved? If NATO gets involved, well, China's going to get involved, and this is World War III. Since World War II, we have never seen too big of a powers sort of clash like this, as in the front line of Ukraine, and obviously really a proxy war for the West. This is absolutely unprecedented stuff, and we're seeing some best experts saying we are like 30 seconds to midnight in terms of the sort of doomsday clock. So we are incredibly close to this massive global catastrophes. That is, if NATO get involved and also Russia and China get involved as well, we're seeing really the collapse of sort of Western civilization if this does happen. We'll see mass nuclear war, nuclear fallout, and really we're playing with people's lives here. We're playing with all of the progress we've made as civilizations. It's disgusting. And we should be in sort of de-escalation mode, and Putin's not playing ball. Trump thought he had a magic wand that he could wave, but he didn't. He said he'd get this deal done in 24 hours, and he quite frankly found it to be a lot more challenging than he thought. It goes back to the fact that he thought this war would have never happened if he was elected, and Putin did reiterate that point. The only reason he invaded Ukraine is because Biden was seen as weak due to the failed Afghanistan withdrawal, which led half a dozen US servicemen dead due to suicide bombers. The whole thing is a massive catastrophe, and really it's just making me worried about really the future of Western civilization.
Yeah, well, we'll see, as you said there, about the escalation of it in Russia. I mean, Ukraine suicide drones last night blew up a oil refinery in Krasnodar, and that's currently still on fire at this moment in time in Russia. We've also seen a bit of breaking news whilst we're recording that Zelensky requested Tomahawk missiles at a closed meeting with Trump for a strike on the Kremlin. In an interview after the meeting, Mr. Zelensky said Mr. Trump was amenable to his appeal for long-range cruise missiles that would put Moscow in range of Kiev strikes. Zelensky stated that if Ukrainian armed forces receive such weapons, they will consider the Kremlin a target for attack, the publication wrote. Russia is also helping China prepare for a possible invasion of Taiwan. Under $580 million contract, Moscow has agreed to train a Chinese amphibious battalion and supply equipment for a potential operation against Taiwan. The Washington Post reports, citing leaked documents, the training will take place in both Russia and in China. Taiwan said it's closely monitoring the situation and is ready for a possible attack. So we're all starting to see it escalate, essentially, with all of the powers that be.
Yeah, every stage where there is a meeting, it doesn't go the way that the general public want, I'm sure Trump is trying his best in order to get a deal, and this sort of kind of art of the deal type stuff he's trying to do here. But it doesn't really seem to be working, Putin is a tough cookie to crack. You can go back to the sort of 2014 coup that obviously meant that a pro-Russian government in Ukraine was overturned to put in Zelensky as a sort of puppet master for the West. We've really escalated this at every single opportunity, even putting virus labs in Ukraine as well. This is true, and we know that things like Hunter Biden was on the board of one of the major gas companies out there. The whole thing's fraudulent and completely sort of anti-democratic there. But, I just hope that it does get resolved, because at the end of the day, I don't want to see Europe fall as a country, or sorry, as a continent there. Obviously, that's pretty much where 95% of all modern day technology and modernization has come from. We don't really want to get nuked by Russia, to be fair, and we are right in the sort of firing pin of it as well. I know America and Russia do border each other, but obviously the mainland there is very disconnected, and they're quite far away from Moscow as well. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Certainly. Well, that probably does us for today's episode, my man. Have you got any final words for us?
No, of course. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate the support. Some of the videos have gone absolutely insane as of recently. So yeah, really thank you for your support. And we'll be back on Monday with some more breaking news.
Yep. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much. Hit like, hit subscribe, and we'll see you all next time. Take care. Peace.